Well, hi everyone. Isn't this great? I love it here. You know, there's an old story from India that I've always liked. I think I might have originally heard it a few years ago from a Vedanta teacher named Muji Baba. It's known as the parable of the two birds, or sometimes simply the story of the two birds. Walking quietly in the woods, like I'm doing today, sometimes reminds me of that story, since whenever I find myself alone in nature, it's easy to reflect upon how busy and scattered my mind can often be when I get involved in the daily activities of the world and forget my true self in the process. Anyway, the story goes like this. Once upon a time, somewhere high up in the branches of a great tree in an ancient forest, there sat two birds on different branches, one slightly above the other. The first bird, sitting on the lower tree branch, was constantly busy, hopping around, pecking at every bit of fruit that it could find. Some fruits were sweet, some of them bitter. And all day long it kept chirping aggressively at the squirrels and at any other types of birds or animals which happened to be in the vicinity, creating a lot ruckus and confusion in the forest. This noisy bird would get excited, it would get upset. It laughed and it cried continually, and it never stopped moving. But all the while, and unbeknownst to the first bird, nearby on a separate, slightly higher branch, sat the second bird quietly observing the first bird. The second bird just sat there patiently, being silent and peaceful, not seeking after any of the fruit, and not perturbed in the least by the other forest creatures. It wasn't eating the fruit, and it wasn't complaining. In fact, the second bird was hardly noticeable at all. For the most part, it wasn't even moving. Nonetheless, it was constantly witnessing whatever transpired, and this second bird was always aware of the actions of the first bird. How long those two birds sat in the tree is not known, but certainly it was a long, long time, as days turned into months and months turned into years. That first bird is very much like us all. Like the way the mind is always chasing something new and always reacting to something whenever anything happens. The first bird is always wanting its life to taste just right, and he is very often disappointed when the real experiences turn out not to be exactly as he had hoped. But the second bird, however, now the second bird is different. The second bird quietly observes the first bird without reacting or judging, yet it's constantly aware of what is taking place. This is the quiet witness inside each of us, the one that sees everything, but never gets caught up in the drama. Nonetheless, over those many years, but only every now and then, the busy first bird would sometimes stop and briefly look up to become momentarily aware of the silent second bird, who is always sitting on a branch in the very same tree, only inches above its head. Whenever that happened, something would stir deep in its heart, and the first bird would feel a longing and a recognition, as if it had suddenly remembered something very ancient and true. And then one day, nobody knows exactly when, during a rare moment of stillness, it began to see clearly. And eventually the first bird realized that they were never two birds at all. There had only ever been just one bird all along. There was simply the one being, appearing as two. There was the busy, restless seeker and the alert, silent knower. And they were really both the same bird. So I guess the moral of the story is the next time your life feels too tangled, noisy, and overwhelming, just remember that the second bird is still there, sitting inside you, watching quietly, peacefully, and patiently. He's been there all along, only waiting for you to notice. Thanks for watching.